Ladies and gentlemen, AJ Hawk.
Yay,
AJ, what's up, pal?
How's it going? Is Jason right on the line?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, AJ Hawk does a fantastic job joining us.
I want to keep a GM waiting. Come on now.
Well, he's not GM, so you just fucking spit in his face. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the Washington Commanders, former player. Yeah, you do. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Wright.
Yeah, Jason.
Jay, what's that all about, dude? He just spit in your face, dude.
Hey, call me what you want. You good. You good, man.
Yeah, that's nice. Anytime we see a former player have success like you have had, especially in the way that you have, you're not a coach, you're not a GM, you're on the business side. We are massive fans of yours. We appreciate you taking time to join us in the middle of this insane period of the NFL cycle. You want to talk draft or Commanders first?
Either one is fine.
Nah, come on. Which one?
Draft is top of mind, man. I'm here at the facility, about to go in the war room. Let's talk draft.
Okay, how involved are you with the draft? You guys take Emmanuel Forbes before Christian Gonzalez. Obviously, his size was something everybody talked about, 166 pounds. But everybody that has chatted about him says he's an absolute dog. Is this continue to build the culture, or what do you think made you guys pick him with your pick right before Christian Gonzalez?
Every team has their unique way of looking at players, right? And you got to trust your staff. You build a scouting staff. Trust your staff.
Whoa. We just saw the background there.
Now.
Hey,
Yeah.
what a setup. What a setup you guys are doing. We'll get into that. Anyways, your scout team, go ahead.
But yeah, you got to trust them. You got to trust them. And when it comes to somebody like Emmanuel, our guys had a different view on him than some of the other DBs. They liked his big playability. If you said we were lacking one thing on an already strong defense, it was playmaking ability, turnover ability. He has that in spades. And you got to trust some of the stuff that our team started to do. They started to leverage analytics a bit more. And that's not just about performance in college or predicted performance. It's on health and how their body can evolve and mental toughness and things like that. And so he was our guy. And like you said, he's a dog. And I played with a guy, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, when I was with the Cardinals.
That was D-But's comp last night for this guy. On the.
That's it. DRC is it. DRC is it. He was incredibly explosive. He could go up and get the ball. He had a natural knack for tracking the ball. He was slight in the frame, but he would stick his head in there when he needed to. And I would argue Emmanuel was willing to do that much more than DRC was. And so we feel really good about the pick.
Hell yeah, as you should. Go ahead, AJ.
So you drafted Emmanuel last night. Can you let people know, like, how long have you been on this guy? How long have you been studying him and watching him and knowing, like, hey, this guy might look good for us?
Yeah, so I observed the team, right? I observed our folks and our scouts do it, so I don't want to take any credit for it. But what I've seen them do is they've been on this for months at a time. Multiple people at their pro day, multiple people watching the film on them, going back months, back into our college scouting cycle. And in the room yesterday, it was actually pretty quiet and calm, because he was one of our guys all along. We saw the things play out ahead of us. There wasn't a lot of wheeling and dealing. We didn't need to get names off the board and shuffle, because he was one of the people that if he fell to that spot, we were going to take him. Now, we always look to trade back and get some value, but there weren't any willing partners, and so we took our guy right where we were.
Well, we're all happy for you. We can't wait to see what you do with the rest of the draft. Now, hey, now's the time.
Yes,
you have been with the Commanders for the last couple years. A lot has happened.
Yes. Yeah.
Before you joined the Commanders, the reason why we all thought you were the perfect hire for them is because you were dealing with like PR nightmare crisis situations
companies
in the corporate world. That was literally what you were doing for your business after being an NFL player, and you were very prolific at it. So becoming the president of the Commanders, at the time the Washington football team.
That's right.
And with all the exposés that were coming out, everything that was being said about what was taking place behind the closed doors, felt like you were the perfect person to go in there. Now, there was a high probability you were going to fuck it up. I mean, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in that situation, there is so many outliers and things happening, including the eyes of the government, every journalist, and billions of dollars at stake. That's a lot of pressure. You have handled this in the exact same way the entire time. Feels like you're very calm, very confident, and trying to find solutions. You've told us that literally the entire time. Now we have a sale that has taken place. Josh Harris, I believe, is the new owner of the team, even though there was contradicting statements at the time, alongside Mitch
Rails.
And Magic Johnson's a part of that whole thing. How active were you in that whole thing? When did you know that was going to take place? Because that's a lot to juggle, especially with the eyes of the entire globe on top of you, Jason.
Yeah, well, I think juggling juggling multiple things has become our sort of core strength here over the last 2.5 years. Because I'd argue we've navigated 20 years worth of professional experiences in the last two. I mean, we had to rebuild a business from the ground up. As much as we knew we were walking into a challenge, this ended up being much worse than we thought. It was a complete rebuild of the business from the ground up. You know, we turned over 83% of the entire staff since we've been here 2.5 years. That's not something I ever would have recommended as a consultant. But as you know, on the team, even though in that room there, if you don't have the right people with the right values, think in the right ways that you want them to think, that are all aligned along the same vision, things are going to get effed up real quick. And so we had to have very low tolerance for anybody that was outside of our core values and our way of working. And so we had to turn stuff over and rebuild the business slowly but surely. I won't bore you with all the business jargon behind that, but
no.
I mean, we had to rebuild this place. We had to have real line of sight into how much money we were making. We didn't even really see that. We needed to build a people operations and HR department. We had to do everything from scratch. So, and then change a name and pursue a new stadium and try to have a championship on the field. That's a lot of things to do at once, but we have got people here. Like you say, you want players that are dogs. We now have people on the business side that are dogs.
Hell yeah.
They're inspired to take on challenges. They're not scared of it. And so as you look at the sale of a team, which will be the largest transaction of any sports team in history.
Congrats.
We have the type of people that are willing to take on that challenge, transition us into a new era where we've already seen the fans start to come back. The business momentum on the other side of this is going to be real because people weren't wanting to participate with us, whether on the sponsorship side or in suite sales or even season ticket sales, because of the reputation of the organization. Part of that's losing for too long, and we're getting that right on the field. But part of that is how we perceive, and that's all going to change. And now we have the people here who are ready to absorb what is going to be a record year in business growth for us, and more importantly, allow us to have a home field advantage, to rebuild a home field advantage in our stands, to have support for the players that isn't clouded by anything else. And it's going to be very valuable for the business.
Hey, great work.
Hell yeah.
Really good. I know you got a team around you, whatever. If you end up going to another job, that is all going to be a part of your resume and what people are going to judge you for as being the president of an operation that went through everything that you went through in the way that you did. And seemingly, we're on the other side of it where brighter days are very much ahead. Because as we were dancing with the thought of, will the team actually go up for sale or will it not go up for sale? I believe Bank of America was hired to kind of make a sale happen. And we're like, here we go, the team's selling. Then it took a while and nothing was really on that front. We're like, oh, classic Snyder.
Yep.
He's going to end up not selling. This was just a PR thing to kind of stir the pot, and then he's going to move on. When did it become a realization that the team was actually going to be for sale? And how long did it take to get a deal done? Because it feels like NFL teams are a commodity that every uber wealthy human would definitely want to be a part of.
That's right. There's definitely no shortage of people that want a team, especially one in our market with this history. You know, many teams don't have one championship. We've got 5 world championships here, right?
No
so
big
there's
deal.
a legacy. Right? No big deal. There's a legacy here in burgundy and gold. And, you know, people who examine the business saw the change in the business. We went from really a ebbing season ticket member base to number 3 in attendance growth the last year. We grew in sponsorship despite a negative headline every other week. We still grew 15% year over year. So they see all that and they're like, yeah, I want in on this. But to the question of when did we know, I knew right at the beginning. Because I think a lot of the rumor mill and intrigue is out. Yeah, it's y'all. It's y'all. And that's your job. It's fine. It's fine. It does bother us, but it's not. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You're fine. It's not a big deal. But for those of us in the organization, especially those of us who are close to it, we knew right away this was a real thing that was going to result in a transaction. But, you know, there's many twists and turns of who it could go to and the timing of it, but we're turning out to be right on time. And I'm arm's length from the transaction. I don't want to overstate my role. You know, I meet with new bidders. I show them where the business is. I give the family office what they need in terms of data so they can get a deal done. But this is Dan and Tanya running this because it's their personal asset. And they've got to deal with it in the way they want. And we're almost to the end of it.
Well, congrats to them. To that point about all the different stuff that you got to manage, this question from D-Bud I think is a great one.
Yeah, and first of all, you look fantastic.
Yeah.
Clean look, that sports coat.
Appreciate it.
Couple of buzz, little taco meat out. I'm feeling a little. Hey, I didn't know
spider meat.
Exactly. I didn't know where you got that jacket from. But you talked about the pressure. Obviously, being the president of a team largest sale in the NFL. Obviously, it was a lot of pressure on you as a player as well. Have you found any parallels between being a player and now being the president of the Commanders, and how did that help prepare you for it?
100%. 100%. And it helped me in my career before this. But I think there's a few things that you guys understand as players that have allowed us to be successful in one of the most challenging business environments I've been around in the last 2 years. The one is the ability to have hyper focus. Like when you are an NFL player, you have to be extremely focused on what you can control. How many times do we talk about don't worry about what you can't control?
Yep.
Control what you can control, focus on that, do that with excellence, and tune out the rest. And the ability to do that for me was honed in the NFL. It was honed in my first year and a half when I got cut 9 times and was wondering where my next paycheck was going to come from. It came when, I fumbled away a playoff clinching game and had to deal with the pressure of that and come back with my confidence the next game, right? It comes from all that. And then I, as a leader, am able to translate that down to the team and give us a vision to cut through the bullshit and focus on what matters and allow the business to grow as it has the last couple of years. And Ron's very good at that too on the football side. So that's number one. The second is the attention to detail. For me as a running back, if AJ, you would pick up on this. If I lined up at 7 yards instead of 6 yards, you'd be like, oh, they're running an inside zone. They're going to run the ball.
AJ would know that.
That's not going to be a pass play, right? If I cheat my stance up, and you might know that it's a pass play. I got to line up at that 6 yard distance, be disciplined, take the right steps, or I'm going to be out of line with the mesh. Attention to detail is what you need in crisis. You have to be attentive to the details. It is all about execution, because in crisis mode, you just have to do the basic things well so that you can take on the messy stuff that can waylay the organization. And so ability to focus, attention to detail, and then building bonds with each other. One of the unique things about the NFL locker room is it's the one place where all people of all stripes come together and build actual, real, meaningful relationships. We fake it in the rest of society. We talk about each other. We call each other names behind closed doors in the rest of society. NFL locker room, those friendships are real.
Yeah.
White, black, green, yellow, purple, gay, straight, poor, rich, country, city, everybody comes together and builds real bonds. Because we had to rebuild differently, and because the challenge in front of us was so difficult, we built a different kind of organization. We have the most diverse leadership team in the NFL. And that's not for performative purposes, because I've been tokenized. I don't do the box checking bullshit. It's because it actually allows us to get to better decisions. It creates camaraderie. It has us match our fans, and we are in a diverse area. And so we have built a team on the business side, and I would argue on the football side too, that have family as a core value, where we treat each other as though we actually have each other's backs, not just colleagues that we work with and that we would throw under the bus if something went wrong. Because if you have people like that, and we had some like that, and we had to get rid of them.
Oh, yeah.
I even hired some like that, and we had to get rid of them. If you have people like that in crisis, you're going to blow up from the inside. And thank God we haven't had that, and we got the right people here.
Hey, Jay, we're all we got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
that is like such a, I assume for your world, but that's like a football mantra pretty much. When things go bad, it gets real loud outside the building. Even inside your building that aren't a part of the football operations, it gets loud about, well, it'd be easier to sell sponsorship if this football team was good. It'd be easier to sell tickets if this team was good. Your fans are saying, we invest in this team stinks. And in the locker room, you're basically saying, hey, we are all we got right now.
And real talk, a lot of business sides will let that perpetuate. They would let that perpetuate. And there's a little bit of what happens in media entertainment. I think you guys are experiencing it too in different ways. Is there's a little bit of protect yourself culture that exists in sports and music. It's like you're real quick to point out the flaws of somebody else and then just try to duck and hide and don't do anything bold or innovative or thoughtful yourself and be like, oh yeah, look at how they messed up. Go get them, take them out. I'm good and comfortable over here. And one thing in our culture, we do not tolerate that. I am much quicker to let go of the person who points the finger and puts blame on somebody else than the person who actually made the mistake.
Hell yeah.
If they made a mistake trying to do the right thing, trying to innovate and do well, I'm going to rock with you. I'm going to take the blame for it. I'll step in front and have your back as a leader of the organization. And then I want you to learn from it and go innovate again. But the person who says, hey, boss, did you see what they did over there? Shouldn't I have their job? You're gone.
Yeah, the person that just wants to experience the success but is scared to step into the batter's box, judging at somebody that just struck out on a curveball, that's a person you don't need, because that person at least stepped into the box, you know?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we had to change the name of a 90-year-old franchise that most of our fans didn't want changed. We're going to go in a transition to new ownership after the biggest transaction in sports history.
Hey, do you know who's buying it? Are we close? Is that thing?
I mean, we're close. We're close.
Keep your name.
Me saying anything right now is not helpful, and all I want is for it to be done. So we're just going to keep it.
No, give away leverage. Do you?
Yeah, come on.
Give away leverage. AJ has a question for you there, though.
Yeah, go ahead, AJ.
Whoever the new owner might be, if they plan or they even are allowed to try to change the name again, do you know if that's a possibility? And also, did you get to deal with Magic Johnson at all? I know he's been deep into this and making pleas on national television to try to get the team.
Yeah.
Mr. Dan.
My only interaction with Magic was actually a great one. Is when I first took this job. And whenever people ask you who's the most famous person in your phone, I say Magic Johnson. He called me when I first took the job and just encouraged me. And actually, he gave me some advice. He probably doesn't even remember it. He gave me some advice that actually ended up being really true. He said, Jason, in this industry, you don't need to watch out for the obvious adversaries. The obvious challenges will always be there. In this industry, it's often the people close to you who will undermine you, pull the rug out from under you, especially when times get tough. And I absolutely saw that in different ways over these last 2 years. And that advice rang true in my head, and I understand it a lot more now. He's a really wise man. I haven't talked to him since, but if he were part of the new ownership group, he would bring immense wisdom to us. That man's been through some stuff, and he knows how to lead healthy organization.
And the team name. Go on. That happened.
That's what it was. Yeah, I was trying to ignore your question.
Yeah, I know. That's my job.
With a very inspirational answer. Come on, man.
It was great answer.
That's unbelievable.
Great answer. Magic remembers that. Magic remembers that.
I'll say that there are. I think there are lots of constraints on changing it that the league has, and that's really mostly a league decision because they decide how often teams can change uniforms and names and all that. It's very, very structured.
I didn't know that. I don't think a lot of us knew that.
Exactly. Oh yeah, like the uniforms and all that stuff had to be approved by the league. It goes through a league process. But what I would say is this: the core of what we need to do is win a championship. And in order to do that, we need to have a profitable business that can invest in the football side, improve our facilities, go and get a new venue deal done so that we can have a state-of-the-art venue and an entertainment experience for our fans that creates a home field advantage. We've got to absorb the growth in the business and have our season ticket members come rushing back in droves over the next couple years with this shift. That's where our time and attention is best spent. If I'm advising folks, I wouldn't spend time on the name first. I would let a whole bunch of other things fall into place, peek our heads up in a few years when we're a healthy, high-functioning championship organization and say, all right, do we still want to discuss it?
Hey, Blue Magic.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a brand name.
That's a brand name.
It's unbelievable.
Don't need you cutting it up. Yeah, absolutely. You know what we're talking about. And that's why you're the coolest president in the NFL. Boston Connor has a question for you about what you just chatted about there, I think.
Yeah, President Wright, you just mentioned the new stadium, and I believe a few months ago there was actually conversations about possibly getting a piece of land in Virginia or wherever that is. Do you guys have plans on building kind of like a Jerry World, maybe even like a Patriots Place with not just a stadium with great stuff inside, but kind of build up around it with hotels, casinos, who knows? And is that, that is the rendering that was released. Is that an accurate depiction of what the stadium might look like?
I think the stadium could look a bunch of different ways. That's one rendering I've seen. I've seen a couple others that have been developed by folks we work with. But new ownership has to have a big role in crafting that vision. But I have had the opportunity to talk to all the folks who have put bids on the team and were in the running. And I do know that they do all align around that vision of it being more than a football stadium, more than just 9 games a year or 9 games plus 6 concerts a year, something that is a 24/7, 365 draw, that is retail, hospitality, all that. And before, we were talking a lot about the Atlanta Braves Stadium and the complex that's built around that called the Battery in Atlanta. If you've ever been to a Braves game recently, they have hotels and restaurants and local businesses and residential local corporate headquarters, a small concert venue that has like 6,000 person concerts called the Roxy. Like they've got a bunch of stuff built in, and that's one of the models that we've been looking at for what we would do. Now, who knows how big it'll be, how small it will be, but I know all the different ownership groups do want to build something like that. Boston.
Land and taxes where you're at, hilariously expensive. Excited to see what those prices are that come out for you to build that entire thing. Got a chance to go see Patriot Place up in New England in Foxborough. Awesome. You go to Lambeau. Lambeau, they got to figure it out because they don't even have an owner. So they just like vote on decisions. Hey, you want to buy this? Yeah. You want to make it a museum? Yeah. How much are we going to charge? All of it. And they're making like, what was it, 200 million?
Something like that. Yeah.
They're making like 200 million allegedly because their books had to be made public, which as a player, now that you're on that side, kind of an interesting.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, because the books, every negotiation for the CBA were like, open your books. Like, let's see, you want us to do this entire percentage thing, let's do it. Green Bay actually had to do that because they're publicly owned, allegedly, even though Mark Murphy actually is owned. 200 million, I think, in real estate around the building. And then you see what Jerry did in Arlington. Arlington has become just like Dallas Cowboys world. I think that's the only thing that makes sense for the next stadium, right?
I think that's right. And it's not just good for the business, and that eventually is good for everybody, including the players, but it's also good for the community.
Yes, the fans, everybody. It's
exactly. And that's part of my, the hat that I wore when I was at my previous firms. I have a background in economic development. And if you're actually going to create sustainable jobs, create living wages in a community, it's got to be more than something that's just there a few days a year and active a few days a year. It's got to be year round. And it's got to draw people to it. That's how you get the rising tide that raises all boats for the entire economy. And you can let all sorts of businesses participate. And that's the inspirational thing. And that's the power of the NFL, honestly. Like the NFL is so much bigger than any other sport. It captures the attention of all of America. It's still the one place where people who hate each other in chat rooms, have different political ideologies, can't talk to one another on social media. Like when they come together in our stadium, they still high five and hug each other when Terry McLaurin scores a touchdown in burgundy and gold. It's the one place where that still happens. And so because of that, when we do a development, it can draw everybody, it can impact the whole community at scale. And that's why sometimes the social issues of the day get thrust on the NFL, and we're a poor steward of them. Like we shouldn't be having nuanced political conversations, but they're going to come our way because this is where everybody is.
Well, Jason, we're a better person than you are.
Yeah, don't even try it.
If you want to get into a political discussion, we're good at this. Hey, Connor, I'm a better person than you are.
I bet y'all are. I bet y'all are. I'm not good at it.
Well, we're a better person than you are. That's political conversation, isn't
Bingo.
it? I'm a better person than you. Isn't that basically all political convo? I think.
But no, it's more than that. At this point, political conversation is, I am right and you are a monster and deserve to be dead or something. That's basically where we're at this point.
Yeah, we don't love that. But what you said about the locker room in football in the NFL, real, but also in the stadiums, it's a real thing. So if you're able to create that more than just at 8 home games or 6 stadiums, and you have a theater, that amphitheater idea down in Atlanta, 6,000, that's easy to fill up for a lot of guests, a lot of people. And if you're bringing the people in, your name is synonymous with celebration and unity and good times. It's great for everything. I hope you guys absolutely crush that entire thing. Ty has a question for you, Jake.
Jason, obviously you can only control what you can control, but you're a human being, so you obviously see in the paper, hear stuff, about like the sale of the team. How do you effectively and efficiently do your job when you're kind of in this like purgatory where you don't know who your boss is going to be or who you're going to have to report to?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing you have as an NFL player, right? You don't know if your coaching staff is going to be there the next year. The whole thing might turn over. I was on a lot of losing teams. I should put it that way. When you're on a losing team, you never know. You never know what's going to happen the next year. You never know who's going to stick around. But you execute with excellence. You work hard and you stay focused for a few reasons. One, and the most important one to me, is just personal integrity. It's the way I was raised. Like my parents were like, if you're going to do something, you are the best at it. And I've hired people that feel the same. We just got a sense of pride and integrity about our work. So we would never let things slip. We're not going to be looking for the next thing because something might change. That's just not who we are as people. It's just not our character. So we're going to be on it. The second thing is the best thing you can do to enable a smooth transition, make sure you're going to be around. or just set up the franchise for success in the future, which we all care about, is do the job well. Because if you're so distracted by the headlines and trying to position yourself and all of that stuff, you're going to F something up. And that's going to cause things to fall apart. And, you got to stay focused. You got to stay focused. And you learn that as a player. But yeah, of course, you're a human being. But I think one of my superpowers is being calm under pressure. I'm sort of like a duck on water. I got a lot going on in my head, and I got a lot of activity. I'm always working on something, but you see it below the surface. And on the top, I'll just be real calm, cool, and collected. And I want to do that for our team, and I think that's what the franchise needs.
Hey, you're a good executive, pal. That's good stuff. I've gotten a chance to meet some execs now in the world that I'm in, and getting a chance to chat with them and meet a lot of the pretty important executives in the world. Being a human is a massive weapon. A massive weapon in that executive level. Feels like because you're a player, because you've come up the way that you've come up, you've almost aligned yourself to be in a perfect situation for where you are. And to your point, always want to have good film.
Yep.
Doesn't matter who's going to be the coach, who's going to do anything. I want to put out good film. What is under my record is going to be remembered forever. I assume you're saying that to your entire team. I fucking love you, dude. I am very happy. We've had to bury your team a couple times. Okay, we had to. Like the poop pipes bursting, had to do it.
Had to.
All these extras,
Jalen Hurts.
had to do it. Bingo, had to do it. All these things have happened, we've had to do it. But every time we talk to you and get a chance to kind of watch what's happening behind the scenes, we just have an immense sense of pride. And I think I speak from me, AJ, D-Butt, and players more so than anything, because players getting into that lane, in that avenue, helping that conversation is good for all of us. We hope there's more, but we think you're a fucking alien, pal. You need to know that. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
You guys are too. And as you know,
Jay.
when you do something differently, like folks come at you. And so you have to be prepared to have opposition when you try to do something differently and innovative and unique. That's what we've done here. We're not afraid of our fair share of real criticism. When it's unwarranted criticism, we'll fight it and we'll push back. But you guys know that. You guys know that same thing. You're not walking anything any different. And the fact that a group of former players and their friends are doing something that's changing the landscape of media, I'm with y'all too. I rock with y'all too.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. Now, I will say to your point about adversaries and oppositions, I'm 6'1", 260 right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If anybody wants to, they can do whatever they need to do. You know what I mean? I feel pretty good. Last question here for you, Jay, from Tone Diggs.
Yeah, Mr. President, while the sale is potentially going on, I know there's league meetings here coming up in less than a month, I believe, and there's always that one per club meeting during those league meetings. Is there a chance during this limbo period that you're going to be the one per club in that meeting, or who would that be while the sale is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I have been before when couldn't make meetings. I've been the one in the owner's own.
What happens in there? Hold on, AJ. Good call, AJ.
I unlike many of the people in these meetings, don't actually say anything outside of the meeting. I still think it's wild how within 5 minutes of a closed door meeting stuff is in the press, but I actually say what I mean.
Is it productive?
They're rats, Jason.
Meeting?
Sorry.
I don't have anything to offer. But yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I think, Dan and Tanya have continued to stay engaged where we've asked them to on the business. They respond to my calls when I need decisions. Look, I don't have the money to invest in things we still need to invest in. So that's not coming out of my checkbook. So they're still engaged. So I expect that if there's one final league meeting or more than one final league meeting, that Tanya, who's been representing us in those meetings, will probably be there. If not, I'm happy to represent.
AJ had some questions about the one per club meeting, I think.
Yeah, is in that one per club meeting. I know you're not gonna say what goes on there, but is it a productive thing? Do you think it's a good thing you guys continue to do that?
I think the one per club meeting is where the best conversations and real business happens.
No phones allowed in there? No computers in there? How's it work?
No phones. They actually ask you to take no notes. And I think the owners are able to have real conversation with one another, unfiltered. And while that can be messy at times, it's actually very productive because argument and debate can create heat, but it also creates light. And I've seen people in that building really get to solutions on things where people are on opposite sides of things. And most stuff that is contentious and meaningful happens in that meeting.
Do you, when you were in there, Did you feel as if there's somebody in there that's swinging the biggest hammer in the conversation, or is everybody kind of in the same place?
It's hard to say who's the most influential in a room of billionaires. That's a tough one.
That's why the one per club meeting is so interesting.
Fascinating.
No, it is a collaborative group, honestly, at its core. That's a little bit of the beauty of the NFL business model, is that your rivals on the field and your business partners off of it. And so, yeah, of course, there's debate and contention, but in general, there's a level of collaboration and partnership that is actually pretty remarkable.
All right, take me there. You're wearing this exact thing here. You walk in all by yourself. No nerves at all. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How we doing? You sit down, assigned seat. How's it work?
Yeah, I mean, there's assigned seats. You sit in the same spot every time. You know, we're next to the
division,
in between the Cowboys and the Bills, and across from the Bears is where we sit.
Okay.
Big ass round table.
It's like it depends on where we're at. Depends on the venue, but yeah, it's consistent. It's structured. It's a proper business meeting. It's not a soap opera as much as y'all would like it to be.
I want to see Jim Irsay up on the table.
Yeah.
Brother, I'm sick of it. I tried to buy the guitar. This fucking asshole ran up the auction. You know what I mean? That's what we think. That's not happening?
That sounds like it is. Look at the
with his reaction, maybe.
No.
Let's stir some shit in there, Jay. Let's get some.
People say interesting things, but no, there's no drama, no acting, none of that.
All right. Well, congrats on all the success. We can't wait to see the next steps. We're happy you didn't give up any leverage for the team in this big-time sale. And we know that if they want to continue to keep the train on the tracks that they've been on for the last couple of years, even though all hell has been breaking loose around the train, you're the guy to keep around. We're very thankful for you. We're proud of you. Ladies and gentlemen, President Jason Wright.
Yeah,